Welcome to another deep dive. Whether you are mapping out your Q3 digital strategy or trying to optimize your agency's operational workflow, or you're simply fascinated by the underlying mechanics of the modern internet economy, you are in exactly the right place.
Absolutely. And we are treating you as the third person in this conversation today, so grab a seat.
Yeah, we are. We're stepping away from the sprawling academic journals and the dense behavioral economics books that we normally dissect here.
Right, which is a bit of a pivot.
It is a pivot. Instead, we are looking at something that it usually gets buried in your inbox or instantly swiped away on your screen. We are looking at a software changelog.
A changelog.
Yeah, specifically the Week 10 changelog published yesterday, March 3rd, 2026, from a social media management platform called WooPSocial.
And I know that sounds incredibly dry at first glance.
Right. You normally just skim a changelog to see if a specific bug was patched or, if the UI was refreshed.
Exactly. But when you view it as a ledger of a digital marketer's daily friction points, it completely changes how you read the document.
It really does.
Because software developers at this level, they don't allocate expensive engineering hours to build features in a vacuum. Every button, every toggle, every automated sequence in an update like this is a codified response to an acute operational pain point.
So we are effectively looking at a reverse-engineered map of the social media landscape's current battlegrounds.
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this. The mission of our deep dive today is to take this seemingly mundane list of updates and translate it into a masterclass on modern social media strategy.
Which is going to be incredibly revealing for anyone listening.
We are going to examine the specific features WooPSocial deployed this week and use them to expose the hidden structural rules of the platforms you and your teams interact with every single day.
We're stripping away the generic advice.
Exactly. We are looking at the raw operational tactics required to actually secure reach and drive conversion in 2026.
And to understand why this specific changelog carries so much strategic weight, I think we need to look at the architect behind the tools.
Yes, the author of this update. It's Frank Heidenreich, WooPSocial's Chief Marketing Officer.
And the credential block attached to this document is really what elevates this from a standard patch note to a strategic playbook.
Let me just list some of this out because it's wild. He lists over 14 years of hands-on experience scaling organic social strategies for over 230 companies across 14 different countries.
That scale is just...
Right, and his content has been featured on platforms like the Next Web Product Hunt medium Quora, aggregating millions of views. Oh, and collaborating with over 300 influencers.
What's fascinating here is the intersection of scale longevity and that explicit focus on organic strategy.
Yeah, break that down a bit for the listener. Organic versus paid at this kind of scale.
Well, in the performance marketing space, scaling a paid media campaign across 14 countries is primarily an exercise in budget allocation, right?
Right, you just pump money into the system.
Exactly. It's localization and bidding algorithms. You are purchasing guaranteed distribution.
But scaling organic social meaning securing massive non-paid distribution across 230 distinct corporate entities and 14 distinct cultural landscapes that require something entirely different.
It requires the identification of underlying algorithmic constants.
Because you can't just get lucky 230 times.
Right. If you manufacture a viral moment organically for one brand and one market, you might have simply tapped into a localized cultural zeitgeist. You caught lightning in a bottle.
But you cannot capture lightning 230 times through sheer luck.
No, you need a highly deterministic system. You need a framework that treats the social media platforms less like public squares and more like programmable environments.
And when you look at that 14-year timeline, you realize this is an operator who has survived practically every major algorithmic paradigm shift.
Yeah, absolutely. He was there for the chronological feed, the pivot to video, the prioritization of session retention, and now the integration of generative AI.
He's seen the platforms aggressively throttle organic reach to force brands into the paid advertising funnels.
And he has continuously found the operational workarounds to keep his clients' content visible anyway.
Which means the software he is helping design is a direct manifestation of those workarounds.
Exactly. He is taking the bespoke manual systems he utilized to grow those 230 companies and translating them into scalable, automated software features.
When a veteran operator transitions into building the tooling for other operators, the resulting product usually eliminates the exact bottlenecks that throttle daily productivity.
The platform ceases to be just a publishing tool, and it becomes a compliance engine for algorithmic best practices.
And that leads us directly into the most revealing feature deployed in this Week 10 update.
The first comment feature.
Yes, it's a feature that completely pulls back the curtain on the adversarial relationship between content creators and the platforms themselves.
It really does.
I am talking about the Facebook first comment automation. Let me read the exact text from the changelog so you hear exactly how they position this.
Go for it.
It says, after posting on Facebook, you can now include a first comment. With platforms reducing the reach of links, the first comment is an ideal way to still link. Just reference to read the first comment for the link in your posts, and you're good to go.
Simple enough.
Right. When scheduling a Facebook post, just click Add First Comment, type your comment, and it will automatically post it right after your original post is live.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't just a workflow optimization. This is an economic workaround designed to bypass a fundamental platform penalty.
The underlying economics of the algorithmic feed dictate this exact strategy.
Because every major social network operates on an attention merchant business model.
Their valuation, their quarterly earnings, their ad revenue, it's all entirely dependent on maximizing a metric known as session duration or time in app.
The longer a user remains within the platform's walled garden, the more ad inventory the platform can serve them.
Therefore, from the perspective of the platform's routing algorithm, an outbound link is essentially an exit door.
It is a direct threat to their revenue model.
Exactly. Let's say you're running a B2B SaaS company, right? Your ultimate goal on LinkedIn or Facebook is to drive a prospect off the platform and on to your landing page to book a demo.
Naturally.
But the moment the algorithm detects that HTTP string in your primary payload, the main body of your post, it actively suppresses the distribution of that content.
It applies a severe session retention penalty. The platform is making a calculated decision. They will not grant free organic reach to a piece of content that is explicitly designed to cannibalize their user session time.
I like to use an analogy here for you listening. Imagine you are hosting a party at a massive venue.
Okay.
The venue is Facebook, and Facebook doesn't want guests leaving for another venue. Let's call that your website.
Because they make money off the drinks bought at their bar.
Exactly. Now, if you stand on the main stage and shout directions to the other venue, which is basically putting the link in the main post, the bouncers immediately mute your microphone.
They cut your reach.
Right. But if you walk off the stage and suddenly hand out little map cards to people who walk up to you after the speech that's putting the link in the first comment, the bouncers don't notice.
The data on this suppression is stark too. Operators routinely see their baseline organic impressions drop by anywhere from 60 to 80% the moment an outbound link is introduced into the primary text block.
60 to 80%. That is massive. You are effectively shadow banning your own content by asking the user to take the exact action you need them to take.
Which creates a massive paradox for the performance marketer. You require high top-of-funnel reach to build awareness, but you require outbound clicks to drive bottom-of-funnel conversion.
If you optimize for reach by removing the link, you get 0 conversions.
And if you optimize for conversion by including the link, your reach is throttled, resulting in 0 conversions.
The first comment tactic is the industry's collective solution to that paradox. It relies on exploiting how the algorithm categorizes different data fields within a post.
When you publish a post without a link in the main body, the algorithm categorizes it as native zero-click content. It views the post as an asset that will retain the user on the feed.
Consequently, it rewards the post with maximum organic distribution. By placing the outbound link in the first comment, you are tucking the exit door into a secondary data field that the initial distribution algorithm heavily discounts or ignores during its first pass.
You are bifurcating the objective of the post. The primary payload, the text and the media, is engineered exclusively to satisfy the algorithm and capture the user's attention.
And the secondary payload, the first comment, is engineered exclusively to capture the conversion.
However, relying on this tactic manually introduces a severe UI friction point and a massive operational vulnerability.
Because from the user's perspective, forcing them to open the comment section, hunt for the specific link from the author, and then click it introduces cognitive load.
You're adding steps to the conversion funnel, and every additional step mathematically degrades the conversion rate.
But the operational vulnerability for the social media manager is even worse. Think about the daily reality of managing an international brand presence.
It's stressful.
Very. If you schedule a crucial product launch post to go live at 9 a.m. Eastern, You cannot afford to have the link missing.
Right before automation tools handled this, a manager had to set an external alarm drop, whatever they were doing at 8:59, sit on the live feed, wait for the post to populate, and then frantically manually paste the link into the comments section before the initial wave of engagement hit.
And if they were caught in a meeting or if the local internet dropped for 3 minutes, the post would accrue thousands of impressions with no conversion mechanism attached.
The momentum of the launch is entirely squandered.
Which is why WooPSocial, integrating this as a deterministic automated feature at the point of scheduling, is so critical. The operator inputs the primary payload and the secondary payload simultaneously.
The software's API pushes the main post, waits for the platform's confirmation webhook, and immediately injects the comment. It completely removes the human error rate from a mission-critical conversion tactic.
The fact that a platform is explicitly building tools to circumvent the host network's primary distribution penalty highlights the deeply adversarial nature of modern organic strategy.
It really does.
And you listening, if you've ever analyzed your own behavior while scrolling through your feed, you've likely noticed this dynamic playing out constantly. How many times have you seen a creator say link in the comments?
Or link in bio.
Right. It has become a ubiquitous piece of internet syntax. It isn't a stylistic choice made by creators. It is a forced behavioral adaptation. It is the language of algorithmic survival.
And navigating that survival requires an immense volume of high-quality content. Which brings us to the second major operational shift detailed in this changelog.
Exactly. We need to examine how WooPSocial is addressing the content generation bottlenecks, specifically through the lens of artificial intelligence and brand safety.
The changelog highlights two specific updates regarding content creation. First, they announce an upgraded image generation model promising higher fidelity visual assets.
Better AI pictures, basically.
Yes. Second, and much more importantly from a strategic standpoint, they introduce post-optimization controls.
The text states, when creating new posts, you can now use checkboxes to include or exclude both hashtags and emojis.
We know from the platform's broader feature set that AI-driven text and image generation is a core competency. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are looking at the critical inflection point of generative AI in enterprise marketing.
The transition from unlimited volume to constrained authenticity.
Exactly. The narrative around generative AI over the last few years has been entirely focused on output capacity. Large language models solved the blank page problem.
If an agency needs 50 variations of ad copy for a split testing matrix, an LLM can generate that in 12 seconds.
If a brand needs to maintain a daily publishing cadence across 7 platforms to satisfy the algorithm's demand for recency, AI provides the necessary fire hose of content.
It completely commoditized the baseline act of content creation.
But commoditization creates a new vulnerability, the sea of sameness.
Oh, absolutely. When every brand in your vertical has access to the exact same underlying neural networks utilizing the exact same probabilistic text generation, the baseline quality of the entire feed homogenizes.
Everything begins to sound like a polite, highly structured, utterly soulless corporate proxy.
The differentiator is no longer the ability to produce content. It is the ability to produce content that possesses a distinct, recognizable, and deeply human brand voice.
And brand voice is incredibly fragile. You can spend millions of dollars and years of strategic positioning, building a specific corporate identity, and a single tone-deaf AI-generated post can fracture that equity.
Think about the operational reality of managing a highly regulated, prestigious brand. Let's say a global investment bank or a top-tier corporate law firm.
Their brand architecture relies on authority, precision, and gravitas.
Right. Now imagine if an overeager social media manager utilizes a generic AI prompt to announce a major corporate merger and the LLM spits out a caption littered with the rocket ship emoji, the fire emoji, and the crying laughing face.
The damage to their perceived professionalism is immediate and severe. The semiotics of emojis in professional communication are highly nuanced.
In the context of a Tier 1 financial institution, an emoji isn't just informal. It reads as a lack of seriousness. It breaches the implicit contract they have with their clientele.
Conversely, if you are managing the presence of a disruptive direct-to-consumer fast fashion brand targeting Gen Z, your entire brand equity is built on being native to internet culture.
Your communication style must be conversational, trend-responsive, and highly visual.
If your AI generates a clinical, perfectly punctuated paragraph with 0 emojis and no trending hashtags, it reads as inauthentic and corporate. It alienates the core demographic.
This is why the introduction of deterministic checkboxes to strictly include or exclude hashtags and emojis is profound.
It represents a shift away from relying on complex, highly fragile text prompts to control an AI and a move toward hard-coded guardrails.
You no longer have to hope the LLM understands the nuance of your prompt saying maintain a professional tone. You simply uncheck the emoji box, and the system mechanically prevents the insertion of that variable.
In the architecture of a brand's voice, negative constraints, what you explicitly forbid the brand from saying or doing, are often far more defining than the positive attributes.
It is the operationalization of brand safety.
When you are operating at the scale of 230 companies, as Frank Heidenreich does, you are deploying content through junior staff, decentralized regional teams, and automated schedulers.
You cannot manually review every single character of every single post for brand compliance. The software must enforce the compliance parameters at the point of creation.
Giving the operator the ability to toggle these specific syntactical elements acknowledges that scaling organic reach is useless if the content being distributed actively works against the overarching brand positioning.
So you have optimized the AI to produce high volumes of brand-compliant content, and you have structured the payload to bypass the algorithm's link suppression with the first comment tool. You possess the perfect digital asset.
But as any seasoned operator knows, generating the asset is only a fraction of the battle.
The true bottleneck in modern digital strategy is distribution. And that seamlessly transitions us to the next critical update in the Week 10 Changelog, which focuses heavily on centralization and the integration of the X platform into the broader WooPSocial ecosystem.
The changelog notes. Secondly, starting today, X Twitter for the OGs is integrated on WooPSocial. You can now post and schedule your X posts from within the dashboard.
I love that they call it Twitter for the OGs.
It's a great cultural nod. It acknowledges platform evolution and user sentiment in the social media landscape.
By integrating X alongside their existing connections to LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, WooPSocial provides a unified command center for 7 distinct networks.
The update claims this will help users save hours a week while getting better results.
And the core strategic value here lies entirely in mitigating the cognitive and operational drag of platform fragmentation. To truly appreciate the necessity of an omnichannel centralized dashboard, we have to quantify the absolute misery of native posting. Oh, it is an exercise in profound inefficiency.
Let's map out a typical deployment scenario for you listening. Let's say you have a new campaign video. You sit down at your workstation and open a browser tab for LinkedIn.
You authenticate your session.
You navigate to the publishing interface, you upload the heavy video file, you paste your carefully drafted corporate copy and hit publish. That is one platform down.
Immediately, the context switching penalty is applied. You open a new tab for X, you authenticate, you upload the media.
But X enforces a strict character limit. Your corporate copy is 200 characters over the limit.
You must now halt the deployment process, transition from an operational mindset back into a copywriting mindset. Aggressively edit the text to fit the constraint without losing the core message, and then publish. 2 platforms down.
Yeah.
Now you move to Facebook. You log in, upload the media, and paste the original copy. But you remember the algorithm wars we just discussed.
You cannot leave the outbound link in the primary payload.
So you publish the post, wait for the platform to render the video, refresh the live feed, and manually inject your first comment. 3 down.
Then you move to Instagram. You realize the 16:9 widescreen aspect ratio of your video is going to look terrible on a 9:16 vertical mobile feed.
You have to open external video editing software, recrop the asset, export the new file, transfer it to a mobile device, because Instagram's desktop publishing API is notoriously unstable, and execute the post from your phone.
And you still have TikTok, Pinterest, and YouTube to navigate.
Each platform possesses its own unique UI, its own specific media formatting requirements, its own API latency, and its own algorithmic quirks.
The cognitive load required for an operator to constantly shift context, moving from the B2B professional environment of LinkedIn to the hyper-casual, trend-driven environment of TikTok, is immense.
Every time you switch tabs, you are burning mental bandwidth. By the time a single campaign asset is fully deployed across the 7 networks, hours of operational time have been consumed entirely by administrative friction,
leaving 0 time for actual strategic analysis, community engagement, or proactive trend monitoring.
Centralization transforms the social media manager from an assembly line worker into an orchestra conductor.
With a unified dashboard, the workflow collapses into a single streamlined process. You upload the core video asset once, You input the master text payload once.
The software interface then expands, showing you a simultaneous preview of how that asset will render across all 7 platforms on one screen.
You can dynamically shorten the text block for X, toggle the first comment automation for Facebook, and adjust the hashtags for Instagram, all without ever leaving the primary tab or re-authenticating a single login.
When a software platform claims it will save hours a week, it is rarely hyperbole in this context. It is a literal calculation of the recovered time previously lost to interface hopping and redundant data entry.
For the agency owner or the in-house marketing director, this is a pure efficiency play. You are effectively multiplying the output capacity of your existing headcount.
You are allowing your human operators to dedicate their time to high-leverage activities like interpreting analytics or refining creative strategy, rather than acting as highly paid data transfer nodes between disparate web platforms.
But no matter how perfectly centralized your dashboard is, and no matter how meticulously you have optimized your workflow, you are still operating within an ecosystem built on highly volatile third-party infrastructure.
Which brings us to a feature in this changelog that on the surface looks incredibly mundane, but actually reveals a profound understanding of professional endurance.
The improved failure notifications.
So what does this all mean when the changelog highlights an update specifically about failure notifications? The update reads, "We've also made it easier to change some settings. Now, when a post fails, you can toggle whether you want to receive an email or not. This is automatically toggled as yes, but if you don't want to receive emails, you can simply uncheck the box."
To anyone outside of digital operations, an email notification toggle sounds like the absolute baseline of software functionality. It hardly seems worthy of a dedicated bullet point in a weekly update.
But to the veteran operator, this toggle addresses one of the most insidious sources of burnout in the industry.
Alert fatigue.
You have to understand the mathematical certainty of failure when dealing with social media APIs, the application programming interfaces that allow WooPSocial to talk to platforms like LinkedIn or X.
When you are scheduling hundreds or thousands of posts a week across 7 different networks, you are entirely reliant on the stability of those third-party connections, and those connections break constantly.
A network might experience a momentary server timeout. They might silently update their security protocols, instantly invalidating your authentication token.
They might change their required image dimensions without warning, causing the platform to reject your media file.
In a high-volume deployment environment, if you have a 1% API failure rate, that translates to dozens of failed executions every single week.
If your scheduling software is hard-coded to send an emergency email notification to your personal inbox every time a post fails to deploy, your inbox rapidly devolves from a workspace into a repository of continuous anxiety.
You are essentially being continuously pinged with micro-crises throughout your day, many of which are false alarms or transient network errors that resolve themselves.
If you've ever stared at a cascade of post-failed API errors hitting your inbox at 5 p.m. on a Friday, you know exactly why this failure notification toggle is arguably the most empathetic feature in the entire document.
When a professional is bombarded with constant low-level critical alerts, the psychological response is desensitization. You develop banner blindness to your own email.
You start routing the alerts to a specific folder that you eventually ignore entirely.
And the moment you start ignoring the alerts, you inevitably miss the one critical failure, like the multi-million-dollar Super Bowl campaign link braiding, because it was buried under a mountain of routine API hiccups.
By explicitly building a toggle that allows users to opt out of email alerts for failed posts, the software developers are acknowledging that professional operators require the ability to compartmentalize their operational stress.
It empowers the manager to dictate the terms of their own workflow. They can choose to keep their email inbox pristine for client communication and internal strategy, and instead monitor execution failures entirely within the WooPSocial dashboard.
They log in, address the aggregated red warning icons on their own schedule, and move on.
It is an architectural decision designed specifically to protect the mental endurance of the user. It is the hallmark of software designed by an operator who has actually lived in the trenches rather than an engineer who assumes perfect network uptime.
That concept of building tools to solve the highly specific, deeply irritating problems of the daily operator transitions us perfectly into the final section of our deep dive.
Yes, if you scroll past the weekly updates and look at the footer of this WooPSocial source document, you uncover an entirely different strategic layer. The footer reveals an arsenal of permanent free tools provided by the platform.
The list is expensive.
It includes an engagement calculator, a Pinterest name generator, a Pinterest engagement calculator, a social media image resizer, a UTM generator, a LinkedIn image resizer, a Pinterest image resizer, and a tweet character counter.
This raises an important question regarding resource allocation. Building, hosting, and maintaining 8 distinct digital utilities requires engineering bandwidth and financial capital.
Why would a SaaS company whose primary objective is to drive paid subscriptions for their premium scheduling dashboard give away this suite of highly specific tools for absolutely free?
The answer lies in a highly effective customer acquisition framework known as product-led growth, or PLG.
Instead of pouring massive budgets into generic display ads trying to convince a marketer that WooPSocial is the best platform, they use these free tools as highly targeted utilitarian lead magnets.
They intercept the exact user they want to acquire at their moment of peak frustration.
Think about a junior marketer who has just been handed a raw, high-resolution photograph and told to update the corporate LinkedIn page.
They realize they have no idea what the exact pixel dimensions or aspect ratio for a LinkedIn header image are in 2026.
They go to a search engine and type LinkedIn image resizer. WooPSocial's free tool ranks at the top.
The marketer clicks it, uploads their image, crops it perfectly within the browser, and downloads the optimized file.
The transaction is frictionless. The marketers solve their immediate operational bottleneck for free, and in return, WooPSocial has successfully introduced their brand, demonstrated the quality and speed of their engineering, and captured a highly qualified visitor in their retargeting matrix.
But beyond the mechanics of the PLG strategy itself, analyzing the specific tools they chose to develop provides a diagnostic readout of the marketing industry's most persistent structural flaws.
Look at the overwhelming emphasis on image resizing. There is a general social media image resizer, a dedicated LinkedIn image resizer, and a dedicated Pinterest image resizer.
It highlights the catastrophic visual fragmentation of the modern web.
Yep.
We do not have universal display standards.
You are dealing with a completely fractured hardware and software ecosystem. You have hardware platforms ranging from ultra-wide desktop monitors to narrow mobile screens.
You have software platforms demanding 16:9 cinematic widescreen for YouTube one-to-one squares for the classic Instagram grid and 9:16 vertical orientation for TikTok shorts and reels.
A single visual asset must be mechanically manipulated into half a dozen different geometric configurations just to ensure the core subject isn't awkwardly cropped out of the frame.
Providing a suite of free resizers acknowledges that visual formatting is a massive manual time sink for the industry.
Yet, while the image resizers address the friction of formatting, there was another tool in that list that addresses the most existential threat to the digital marketer: the UTM generator.
To fully comprehend the gravity of this tool, we have to discuss the attribution crisis.
UTM stands for Urchin Tracking Module, a legacy term from the early days of web analytics. But its function is the absolute bedrock of performance measurement.
When you look at a URL in your browser and see a long string of text following the main address, something like $@tm_source equals Facebook and LTM_medium equals social, you are looking at UTM parameters.
Without those parameters, a digital marketer is operating completely blind. Imagine you launch a massive multi-channel campaign for a new B2B software product.
You deploy assets on LinkedIn x Facebook and via an email newsletter.
At the end of the month, you pull up your Google Analytics dashboard, and you see that your landing page generated 500 booked demos. The campaign is a massive success.
You take the data to the executive team, and the CFO asks you a very simple question. Which platform drove the most demos so we know where to double our budget next month?
If you did not use UTM parameters, you cannot answer that question with any degree of certainty. Your analytics platform will likely lump a massive portion of that traffic into highly ambiguous categories like direct traffic or generic social referral.
This is often referred to as dark social. Did the demos come from the high production video on LinkedIn, or did they come from the text thread on X?
Without knowing, your future budget allocation is purely speculative. You might pour $50,000 into X the following month, only to realize later that Facebook was the actual conversion engine.
UTM parameters solve the attribution problem by appending deterministic tracking data directly to the link.
When a prospect clicks the link on LinkedIn, the UTM tag forcibly instructs your analytics software to categorize that specific session and any resulting conversion under the exact campaign medium and source you designated.
It provides the forensic trail required to prove return on investment. If you cannot prove that your specific social media efforts are directly driving pipeline revenue, your department is viewed as a cost center.
And cost centers are the first to be eliminated during a budget contraction.
However, manually constructing those UTM strings is a highly fragile process. It requires strict naming conventions.
If one operator types UDM underscore source equals LinkedIn with a capital L and another types it in lowercase, the analytics platform will treat them as two entirely separate traffic sources, destroying the integrity of your data reporting.
By offering a free, standardized UTM generator, WooPSocial is addressing a critical failure point in campaign deployment. They are ensuring that the syntax is perfectly formatted every single time.
It is a tool designed to help the marketer defend their budget to the C-suite.
When you look at the entire suite of tools, the character counters for platform, constraints the engagement calculators to prove audience interaction, the resizers for visual fragmentation, and the UTM generators for ROI attribution, you are looking at the vital signs of the digital marketing profession.
These are the relentless daily operational challenges, and this software platform is strategically positioning itself as the comprehensive antidote.
It is remarkable how much strategic depth can be extracted from a document that most people would archive without a second thought. Let us synthesize the overarching narrative we have uncovered today from this Week 10 WooPSocial Changelog.
We began by recognizing the unique operational pedigree of the author, understanding that these updates are not theoretical features, but codified frameworks built to scale organic growth across global markets.
We analyzed the adversarial economics of the algorithmic feed, exploring how the first comment automation is a necessary, albeit slightly friction-inducing workaround to bypass severe session retention penalties while still securing vital outbound conversions.
We navigated the complex intersection of generative AI and brand safety, highlighting how deterministic controls, like checkboxes for emojis and hashtags, are essential guardrails to protect a brand's unique identity in an increasingly homogenized AI-generated feed.
Furthermore, we examined the immense operational leverage provided by centralization. Integrating platforms like X into a unified dashboard does not merely save time, it eliminates the compounding cognitive tax of context switching and native UI navigation.
We addressed the psychological reality of alert fatigue in professional workflows, noting how features like the failure notification toggle are explicitly designed to protect human endurance against the inevitable volatility of third-party APIs.
And finally, we dissected the product-led growth strategy hidden in the footer, using their free tools to diagnose the industry's critical struggles with visual fragmentation and the existential necessity of accurate ROI attribution via UTM parameters.
The ultimate takeaway for you as you log off and return to your own strategic planning or your own daily scrolling is that the digital environment you interact with is not a natural landscape. It is a highly engineered, deeply adversarial matrix.
When you see a brand forcing you to hunt for a link in the comments, you now understand the exact economic penalty they are trying to evade.
When you see a corporate post completely devoid of emojis, you understand the deliberate brand protective constraints applied to their AI generation.
You are no longer just consuming the feed, you are reading the underlying code of the digital economy.
And as you observe that underlying code, I want to leave you with a final trajectory to consider.
We have documented the immense lengths platforms are going to suppress outbound links and hoard user attention alongside the sophisticated automation marketers are deploying to circumvent those penalties.
If we project this trend forward, we have to ask what the fundamental architecture of the future internet will look like. Are we accelerating toward an era of absolute walled gardens?
Will we reach a tipping point where the major social networks completely disable outbound hyperlinking, forcing brands to conduct all e-commerce, all customer acquisition, and all audience monetization entirely natively within the platform's proprietary interface?
It represents a potential death knell for the open web. And it is the critical macro trend every digital operator must monitor as they build their long-term digital footprint. The battle for the open web versus the walled garden, that is a trajectory that will redefine every aspect of digital operations in the coming years.
Something to definitely keep a close eye on as you navigate the digital landscape.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. We hope you walk away with a sharper analytical lens, a deeper understanding of the operational mechanics driving the platforms, and the strategic foresight to navigate the changing digital landscape. Keep questioning the digital world around you. We will see you next time.